everybody. We want to welcome you as you're joining us tonight for this webinar. We'll take just a couple of minutes to let you get settled and join us. But one of the things that you can do for us, since we're talking about how to pay for college this evening, I gotta believe that there's a lot of seniors that are joining Mike and I. And so why don't you do us a favor, in the chat box, go ahead and put in, if you don't mind sharing it, which college your student is going to in the fall. That would be exciting to see that. And then we'll give you a little bit of additional details here as we jump into this, but feel free to put that in the chat box just to let us know what's going on there, okay? All right, LSU, there you go. UMD College Park, yep, University of Maryland, excellent. Another one, that's cool. Where else is everybody going to college? NC Central University, awesome. Not sure yet, a business school, okay, awesome. Yeah. UMBC, great.
Lots of Maryland folk.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll give it just another minute as we're letting folks in here. Wheaton, fantastic. Oops. UMass Amherst, that's awesome. And Northeastern. Okay. Well, just know this, we're excited for you all and all the schools that you're looking at going to. Carnegie Mellon, great, another great school. But it's great to have you with us this evening. Let's take just a minute. Mike and I will introduce ourselves to you. So Mike, why don't you start us off?
Sure. I'm Mike Hunsberger, one of the College Aid pros, helping folks navigate this how to pay for college situation. And my background is I spent 25 years in the Air Force and have since transitioned to a financial planner who concentrates on helping families figure out how they're gonna, pay for college.
Awesome, Mike. Thank you. And my name is Dan Bisig. So my claim to fame was that I was a financial planner actually for 25 years. And in the middle of that, I got introduced to this whole world of college planning. And so I transitioned out of financial planning and became a full-time independent educational consultant 18 years ago. And actually, I'm referred to as a little bit of a unicorn because I do both the admissions side of the process as well as the college funding side, because I think they're both critically important as you're planning for college. So super excited to be with you this evening. And let's go ahead and jump right in here. By the way, one important thing, feel free to ask us questions this evening by putting it into the Q&A box, so the question and answer box for us. We will do our best to get to all the questions. What I will tell you is if you've got some real personal questions that it might be better for you to schedule a meeting with us, and we'll remind you about that at the very end, again, how you can do that, okay? But let's jump right in here and get started. The very first thing we want to do, though, is make sure that you all are familiar with, which we hope you are, your MyCap account. So mycap.collegeaidpro.com. I know Mike's going to go ahead and put that, which he did, into the chat box. Thank you, Mike. Really, really important tool for you to use at this time in the process, because again, we saw one family that's still trying to figure some things out, and you may be one of those families. You may be in a situation where you still have until June the 1st, which I know is just coming up here, or maybe even a little bit later if you've asked for an extension, to make your final decisions based on how long it took to get those FAFSAs processed this year, those financial aid offers ultimately from the colleges. So we feel your pain. Believe me, Mike and I were just talking about the fact it's never been this late that we've been working with families on that type of thing. But this conversation tonight is really important because we want to, help you understand the value of using the software, but also understanding all the vehicles that are out there. So we're actually going to go ahead and just jump in here to this next thing. There's an important timeline, right? And the importance of this timeline is this, there are going to be bills that are going to come due. The good news is those bills work this way. You're going to receive the first semester bill sometime in about mid-July, and it'll be due in mid-August. really important that you fulfill that and go through getting that paid. Most colleges are going to go ahead and issue them the second bill for the spring sometime in mid-November. It might be due in mid-December, even the 1st of January, depending upon the schools. And just know this, when it comes to these college loans that you're considering, some of them are really approved quickly. In other cases, they're issued in, say, 1 to 3 days. And it's important that you know that going in, because if loans are going to be part of your funding solution, we want to make sure that you're taking action and that you're understanding the options that are out there. So we advise that you go ahead and get those loans done. We don't want you to wait around too long to actually take care of getting this together. And the reason being is because, again, your payment plans are important. And in fact, if you decide to set up a payment plan, which we'll talk a little bit more about at a college where, if they'll let you do that, then you're going to find that those payments normally start with a begin date of, say, June the 1st. Okay. So again, kind of a broad idea of what's going on here, but just something that's important to know. What we do know is this: $100 per month that you can save or put towards college right now is going to definitely help reduce the amount of overall debt or the amount of money that you have to borrow. And if you think about it, it's all about that big, bad, nasty word called budgeting. Have you sat down as a family, which we hope you have, and that you've actually already calculated where you can help the student pay for college? And students, as you're thinking about this, how might you also help pay for college? Because if you've got a part-time job, say this summer, something maybe that you're going to continue until school starts up, or maybe you're even going to try to get a college or a job when you get to college on the campus or something like that, it really can go a long way as far as trying to help to reduce the amount that you have to borrow for college. So one of the things we know is that this is an opportunity for you. And it's really an opportunity for you to maximize all of the different vehicles that are out there in your financial life. Okay. So what we're talking about here is that we want you to put into place a better understanding of how you're going to pay for college. And also, this is a great time for you to kind of clean out your junk drawer. In other words, let's get rid of all those things that maybe are some challenges that are going on. It might be that you're redirecting money from, say, one pocket to another when it really comes down to it. But it's all about having a total transparent conversation about how you're going to pay for college and how things are going to work out in this whole thing. So if you think about it, when it comes to this whole idea of putting money and reducing the amount that you're going to borrow, it's really all about cash flow. It's understanding the fact that there's some options out there. Now, what you need to know is this idea of this payment plan, and you may not even realize that this is a possibility. Colleges often have a third-party institution that they're working with, and it's a situation where what they're going to do is they're going to manage you making your payments. So let's say that you've got a funding gap that exists of maybe $10,000. Then obviously what you're going to do is they're going to look at the next 10 months and they're going to figure out what that looks like as far as the amount that you pay. That would be about what? It's about $1,000 a month. And so that might be an ideal way for you to be able to pay for college. The good news is to get into these payment plans, it's very reasonable. It's maybe $50, $60, $75 at the max. So that you are put in control of this. And by the way, it doesn't have to be an all or none proposition. It could be that maybe part of the money you've got, when you understand your cash flow, maybe it is indeed the fact that you've got an extra $250 or $500 per month that you can put towards this. And so just realize that then, that you can look for other options as far as funding vehicles that might work for you. Okay. All right, Mike, let me hand it over to you.
All right. All right. So, a lot of folks have several different funding pools that they're probably going to be looking at when they think about how they're going to pay. Your student may have savings investments. There may be, a trust account that they can use. There's also, a lot of folks have college savings plans, or you may have a prepaid tuition plan that'll cover part of the tuition. And then there could be other things like gifts from grandparents. So we're going to walk through a bunch of these different types of resources, when we consider to use them, There used to be some more theories around gifts from grandparents. With the change to the FAFSA, that's somewhat gone away. So, we'll walk through all these. Next slide. All right. So if you've got a 529 plan, you want to, that's for qualified higher education expenses. And those are things like room and board, the fees, the tuition. It can even be a computer that if they need that for college. But you'll want to make sure you're using that money for those expenses in the year they occur. If you get outside of that, you will end up paying a penalty and taxes on the funds. If you use them for the qualified higher education expenses, they come out tax free and no penalty. So two ways to get the money. Most 529s will either send the money directly to the college or to you. And again, just keep good records. You want to have that paper trail for the tax return because, like I said, if your qualified higher education expenses for this calendar year 2024 end up being say $10,000 and you decide you're going to pull out $12,000, that extra $2,000 you took out, you could get hit with the penalties and tax on those account, the money you pull out. Next slide. So grandparent assets. For a while, this would come up and, the old FAFSA took this into account. So if the student got money for college from a grandparent, it would affect their next year's ability for need-based aid. Change in the FAFSA no longer asks about this. So grandparents that might be willing, or even other family members, aunts, uncles, cousins, they can help pay for college for your student. If they've got it in a 529 account, it's the same type of thing where, they'll need to tie it to the qualified higher expenses. And then across all of these, you want to use it strategically to make sure you've made that 4-year plan, especially once we start talking about loans. Sometimes it's beneficial to take some loans early on and spread that out across all 4 years versus waiting till the very end and say having to figure out total payment for the last 2 years. So we'll talk more about that as we go. Next slide. American Opportunity Tax Credit. This is a great credit for those who qualify. It's $2,500 per year per child. Can only be used in the, basically your undergrad college. You can get it for 4 years. And it ends up being phased out when married filing jointly AGI hits $160,000, and it's totally phased out at the $180,000 point. So there is a little bit of to qualify for this. Basically, they need to be non-tax advantaged funds. So you can't take money from the 529, pay for the whole bill, and then still get the tax credit. You need to have paid. Again, let's use the $10,000 that you owe. You to get the full $2,500 tax credit, 4,000 of that would have to be paid just basically with after tax dollars, and then the other 6,000 of that $10,000 bill could come out of the 529. And then when you file your taxes, you'd be able to claim the credit. Again, the student needs to be a dependent on your tax return to be able to claim it. And the credit is per student. So if you've got twins or if you've got multiple students in college at the same time, you can get this credit for each of them as long as you, again, paid that $4,000 out of taxes, taxable income, and that you've also meet the requirements for the AGI limits. Next slide. So Just the general borrowing rules. We're going to start getting into loans here. Um, it varies. No one size fits all. Some people it makes sense to take parent plus loans. Other people it doesn't. It may make sense to go to a private or a state loan. Um, you need to understand kind of what you're borrowing, what you're trying to maximize for your family, and then that's really what's going to dictate where you should go to get that money. You also want to think about how much is too much to borrow. Um, you hear in the news all the time about the student loan crisis, of folks taking out hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars and being unable to pay it back. So we have a general rule of thumb. Dan, if we can go to the next slide.
Yep.
We really like to tie it to the average starting salary by major. This kind of makes the most sense. If somebody said they were going to Carnegie Mellon, if they're going to Carnegie Mellon to do computer science, and they're expecting to earn above $75,000, we think that's about kind of the limit of how much you can comfortably borrow. Whatever that first year salary is going to be, it's kind of what you can comfortably borrow and still be able to pay it back, and not be eating ramen and beans every meal afterwards. So again, education's great, but if they're going to be an elementary school teacher, which is fantastic, uh, it's hard to justify taking out a lot more than what they're going to make in that first year, or they're going to have a difficult time, making ends meet to pay back their loans. So.
Yeah, Mike, one thing too that I was going to say is this is a great spot where in the software, the affordability section that's in there where it shows the 4 years and it compares, like if you put in there the major that the student's going to pursue in college compared to how much debt they might have to take out. It's totally transparent, isn't it?
It is. It is. Yeah. It's a great another part of the tool to make sure you're taking advantage of.
Yeah. Perfect.
All right. And I think you're going to hit the specific types of the loans that we can look at.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So as you can see from this slide, there are a bunch of options out there, folks. If you have completed the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, then your students are eligible for the direct federal student loans. And we'll talk about the numbers and things like that in just a second. Also, that makes you eligible parents for the Parent Plus loan. Now, in addition to that, some families do go looking, because we'll talk about the interest rates here in just a few minutes, for private student loans or even private parent loans that are out there. There could be advantages and disadvantages to all these products. So we're going to try to get some transparency on that. We're also going to talk about the state loan programs that you may not even know about. Although 23 states across the United States have loan programs. I know in the state that I'm in, there's a loan program that's available for only residents of the state, but there are a few states that we'll share with you a little bit later where you can be anywhere. And then, of course, colleges. Some colleges actually have their own loan programs. And so there could be some advantages to looking at that as well. Then we're also going to talk about alternative loan options. That's something that Mike's going to really dive into, whether it's home equity, 401k, and or family loans, and so forth. So let's jump into this. Very first thing that you need to know is that there is a maximum amount that your student can take out in their own name, having completed the FAFSA again. So for the freshman year, you'll see on the far right side, it's $5,500, sophomore $6,500, junior and senior year $7,500 each, for a grand total of $27,000. Now, to help educate you about this, depending upon what your student aid index looked like and what your financial aid offer looked like coming from the college, it's possible that of that $5,500, you could have some tier one money, which means subsidized or unsubsidized. It could be the full amount, the full $3,500 that we're showing there could indeed be subsidized. And to clarify that, that means that it's interest free during the time that your student is in college. And then when they graduate, it does start to have an interest rate assessed to it. But it's by far the best money. So a subsidized loan, which is traditionally given to a student where there's financial need, could be anywhere from zero to a full $3,500 the first year, up to 45 the sophomore year, 5,500 the junior and the senior years. Now, to be very clear, it's also possible that the full $5,500 might be unsubsidized. Unsubsidized means that you're paying interest on that loan from day one. So just keep that in mind. And you probably have heard this, but we've got it down here on the left-hand side. The interest rates were just set at 6.53% that you would be paying on that loan. Now, the one reason that families sometimes consider these loans as an alternative as well is because they do have some pretty solid protections in them. For example, against death and disability, but it's also a use it or lose it situation with these federal student loans, meaning you either use the $5,500 as a freshman or it doesn't roll over to the next year and so forth. So if there's any chance that you think that you're going to need this money to help pay for college, this might be the time that it makes sense for you to go ahead and move forward with that. And depending upon how you're going to work your finances, let's say that you're hoping to kind of split this money between the fall semester and the spring semester, then they're going to put 27.5 or send that to the college directly on the student's behalf in the fall and 27.5 in the spring. So again, just keep this in mind. This is the way that the federal student loans work. Why, again, might you want to do this in addition to the use it or lose it? Well, it can indeed help your student create a credit history. That might not seem like a big deal now, but it will one of these days. And if you've got only unsubsidized loans, meaning the student only got those unsubsidized loans, you could always take it out and immediately pay it off if you want to. Again, just using it again as more of a leveraging tool, an opportunity there. And it really could be worth it because the loan origination fee on this type of loan is just a little over 1%. And the other thing is that there could be some advantages to, showing that, hey, we're willing to participate in, taking out the loans and things if it comes to an appeal. In other words, if you're still trying to do an appeal with a college and they can see that you're actually participating in paying for the education, maybe they'll be a little bit more open to some other monies. Really important that you understand that right now, if you're going to do this, again, it assumes that you submitted your FAFSA. It was part of the offer then that's been presented to the family or to the students through their financial aid offer. But then you need to go and you need to do the requirements. There is a loan entrance counseling that has to be done, which is an online process. There's actually a video that the student will watch. And there's also a little quiz that they will take along the way. Why? Because they want to make sure that the student's actually paying attention. In addition to that, at the end of that, the student is going to sign the promissory note. Now, just so that we're clear on this, you sign that promissory note one time, and then in the future, every single year, you need to continue to submit the FAFSA so that you qualify for the next year's loans. So the promissory note's only the first year, and it applies to all the years thereafter. And all of this is done through the studentaid.gov website. That's where you would actually do the counseling. Although we do encourage you to also communicate with the financial aid office at the school to understand these types of things, whether that's looking into the payment plan we were talking about a few minutes ago and or understanding the loan counseling. And so just to keep that in mind, that's the student side of things. Now let's transition over to the Parent Plus loan. First of all, mom and dad, this is a loan that you're taking out yourself. It's important that you know that this is in only one parent's name, traditionally, meaning that's all you're going to do there. It is your liability. So we want to be very clear about the fact that this is, again, your loan. There are repayment timelines that you have to follow. It's a fixed interest rate that I think we talk about in just a minute, but I'll share it with you anyway. It's 9.08%. There is a loan origination fee. And by the way, that loan origination fee is 4.228%, which is pretty hefty. It's actually the reason why we really don't like plus loans. We hate it when colleges package those into their plans because suddenly it looks like you're going to pay zero for the college, but the reality is that there's some significant cost associated with taking out that loan. And that's why we're going to share some other options with you tonight. There are forgiveness programs that are in place for these types of loans. And also, again, those protections that are there for death or disability. So, those are definitely some advantages. You're kind of, without a doubt, you're paying for that with the loan origination fee that you've got there. And it's really easy to apply for these loans, which maybe makes it kind of tough because, believe it or not, it is solely based on your credit history. It has nothing to do with your income. It has nothing to do with a job. It has nothing to do with savings. It's based on your credit history as to whether or not you can qualify for these loans, which again could be good or bad. Okay. So we look at the Parent Plus loans as a last resort type of loan for you to do because of the added cost that goes along with it. The other thing is it is 100% through the federal government. These loans are. Again, it's only in one parent's name. You could make arrangements to have your student actually pay back the loan, but you do need to know, again, it's not their obligation. In other words, they could walk away from it. They probably won't get invited to like holidays and things like that if it's not going well, if you're not real happy with them. But again, the thing that's interesting about it is the approval or denial is really granted pretty much instantaneously. You fill in the details, they do a search on you, and then they'll let you know if you qualify for it. And it's, up to the remaining balance. So whatever that balance might be is where that comes into play. Okay. Now, how about some of these state loans? We kind of, I teased you about this or teased this as an option earlier. And I know Mike is going to go ahead and put a couple of these into the chat box for us. Maybe you already have, Mike, for all I know. But the key is this. Some states, and I'll give you an example, two states in particular, which are Rhode Island and Massachusetts, have loan programs that are available for anybody across the country. In other words, we list it right here for you. Even Iowa has a plan that's similar. The nice thing about these plans is that they likely don't have a loan origination fee. That's a big plus. Imagine not having to pay 4.228%. In addition to that, they might have a lower interest rate. I mean, there's a possibility for that. You also may be able to do just the student loan, the private student loan through them, where the idea then is that you are truly trying to put the burden on the student as far as what's going on here. Just know this, that not all states have a borrowing program. So if you're in a state that doesn't, then that's where the Rhode Island or the Massachusetts or the Iowa plans may come into play. And again, in the chat box, we're going to, we've put those links in there for you for at least the Rhode Island and Massachusetts plans. The good news is these are applications are completed online, and you're putting those details in, and then they're going to let you know likely within 24 to 48 hours if you've been approved or denied that loan. So, I mean, just so that we're clear on this, what happens if you get turned down for loans like the Parent Plus loan that we were talking about a few minutes ago? Well, there is a system built in where you could get somebody else to be a co-signer on that loan with you, mom or dad, to help take that loan out. Just realize that that means that they're going for the ride with you, if something were to happen. With these outside private student loans, there's a possibility that that might exist, but you really need to read the fine details and understand what you're getting into. Also, make sure that you do the research into understanding how these loans react to, again, death and disability, death of, not that we're wishing this on you all, but death of the student or death of the parent in those particular cases. You really need to know what's going on there, okay? And then finally, we're talking about private student loans. Again, we've got a lot of these kinds of sources out there. In fact, it would not shock me in the least, mom and dad, if you're already getting mailings or already getting emails from places like College Avenue, Citizens, SoFi, Discover Card, all these different organizations that are out there that do indeed do loans. In fact, if you're part of a credit union, you might be able to go and do a student loan. Do know that because this is a private loan, that somebody's going to have to co-sign on this loan. And so the question is, who's going to be that co-signer? It's traditionally going to be a parent. What that means again is if something goes awry on this loan, that mom or dad, you're going to be getting the phone calls, you're going to be getting the nasty emails and text messages and things like that. Again, these are done online, and you're going to find that again, the approval or denial process of this is about 1 to 5 days. But it's one of those things where we definitely want you to do as much research as you can. And by the way, another quick reminder, please make sure that you're putting any questions into the Q&A, not in the chat box for us, so we can make sure that we get to those tonight. But any other comments, Mike, that you'd like to make about any of those loan options?
Yeah, it's just it's really make sure you're comparing to, look at all the fine print, and that's really important, especially when you start getting into the private loans. Some of the lending periods, when the repayment periods are shorter or longer, depending on what type of loan you sign up for. So just understanding all that, and really doing your homework before you start.
Yeah, one other idea too. Let's not forget that this is not a 1-year solution. This is a 4-year minimum solution that you're likely looking at when it comes to these loans, in addition to your savings that you've got. That's one of the reasons why we say that, ideally what you're doing is, well, actually, I'm not going to give away the thunder here. We're going to talk a little bit about ideally kind of the way that you're working through this stuff, but make loans your last resort if at all possible. Okay. All right.
All right, so let's talk about some other options that you might consider for figuring out how you're going to pay for college. This used to be a lot more common, say 3 years ago, when interest rates were much lower. Some folks found they could refinance their home, pull out some equity while they were doing it, and actually even end up reducing their payments when we had rates in the 3% range. Unfortunately, all of that has gotten significantly. All those rates have gone up significantly. You still may be able to get a home equity line of credit or a home equity loan, about for what you're paying for the Parent Plus loan, but it's significantly more expensive than it was. So unfortunately, this may not be as great of an option as it was. Now, if your student's just starting and rates start to come down over time, this could be maybe, for their junior, senior year, this could be an option that you should still keep in the back of your head as something you could consider. So. 401k loan, I don't, we don't like to recommend this if it's, the last effort, or your retirement is, fully funded or overfunded, and you're sure that this is a good idea, but you're taking it out of, proposed retirement funds. Basically, there is a limit. You can take either the max is either $50,000 or half of the vested amount in the account, whichever is lower. So even if you had $1 million in a 401k, typically the maximum you can get is $50,000 out. It's got a shorter time frame. It's got to be repaid within 5 years. And if you don't repay it, it's basically taken as you just pulled that money out. So you're going to pay the taxes and penalties right away. And then sometimes these can be at decent rates, because the interest rate is set by the plan. Sometimes they're tied to, say, current 10-year treasury or 5-year rate or something like that. So they might not be that bad. But again, really think through if you can afford taking it out of a retirement account that you're going to need in the future. So, all right, next slide. Intrafamily loan. We talked a little bit about, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins helping out with funding for college. Well, maybe they, don't feel like they can just give the money away, that they need it, but maybe they're able to, loan your student some money for college. Really no, approval paperwork other than, the discussions with the family. Concern could be that, there is some stress that could ensue if the student's not able to pay it back, or the family's not able to pay it back. So, this type of thing doesn't affect financial aid because it's a loan and not, extra money coming in. The one thing I will say, there are some federal rules around intra-family loans and loaning money even between friends, minimum interest rates that are set. And so you want to make sure you look into that before you approach this. But this could be a good way if somebody is willing to make an intra-family loan.
Yeah, Mike, and I was going to say, through the years, I've had some grandparents that wanted to participate with their grandchildren, um, but they wanted kind of some strings attached. I've also for sure had some parents that have done the same thing where they've got the money, but they're saying, "Hey, we're not just going to give it to them because we want to make sure they're going to actually finish school." Even if at the end of the day they decide to kind of graciously, forgive the loan or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Life insurance, um, again, another option to potentially, if you've got a cash value life insurance policy that's got a bunch of cash value in it, you could potentially borrow against that. Um, again, you'll want to talk to your advisor or your insurance agent about that and what are the ramifications. Um, one of the ramifications is if it's $500,000 policy, you take 100,000 out as a loan for college, and you actually decease while you got the loan out, that comes off that $500,000. So it's something that if you're considering, you're going to want to do your homework again on this. So here are some things that we like to run through with folks to determine what's their, criteria for borrowing. Um, how much does the rate of that loan matter? As we talked about, the Parent Plus loans now at about 9% or over 9%. That's quite a bit. You can probably find things cheaper, but there are some added protections with it being a government loan. Then you want to consider who should be on the loan. Is it just you? Is it just the student? Is it you and the student? For undergraduate, the only loans that the student's probably going to qualify for are those federal direct loans. Everything else, parents or someone else is probably going to at least have to be a co-signer. Um, consumer protection and flexibility, that's the government loans you saw during COVID, the payment pause, other things that are, there with some of the repayment plans that could be tied to income. So, those loans are better, whereas if they're already in the private side, they won't qualify for those type of things. And then, do you want to pay a premium for those types of insurance things, like the protection and the flexibility? And then, if you're thinking home equity or even life insurance, are you willing to access that for college or the 401k loan? When those things were for other purposes, how does that affect your overall financial plan?
So as we get ready to kind of transition to take a look at the software for just a minute, one of the things that I mentioned earlier is kind of what's the ideal place or the ideal sequence of how you should be tapping into money. I just thought I'd share this with you. This is kind of my philosophy on it, which is I think the first place is free money, which is the scholarships or grants. Then we move on to saved money. That would be money that you've got in the 529 plans, your education savings accounts. Heck, some folks even still have double E savings bonds, that grandparents or whatever have purchased through the years. Earned money, meaning that you're working, that you've got a job, that you're earning that money. Military money, through the GI Bill, the Yellow Ribbon benefits, which Mike is a big expert on. And then finally, loan money again being the last resort type of thing. So those are really important. One question, Mike, that came up in the Q&A that I thought would be worthwhile for us to talk a little bit about is this whole question about the 529 plans again, understanding that distribution. Do you want to touch base about that? Because, the gentleman's asking about like when do you take the distributions and things like that?
Yeah. I looked at that question and thought it would probably be better to answer that one live also. Um, so, they can be taken anytime. It, it, if you're getting, need-based aid, um, it may make sense to kind of front load that because that is assessed. It's only assessed at 5%, but it is assessed as a parent asset on the FAFSA. So spending that down can, marginally impact, and possibly qualify you for more aid. Um, but again, you want to have the plan for the whole 4 years because sometimes it may make sense, or if you're going to have to borrow, to be taking the federal direct loans every year, uh, even though you may have some 529 funds that you haven't used yet. And then, you know, super record keeping, taxes, you should keep a copy of all the invoices. And again, you do need to pair it with the tax year, which, the school years don't match the tax year. So, you want to make sure that that bill is actually due and you're paying it in that tax year. So for a fall semester, you want to take out whatever you're paying for that. And then if you're paying for spring semester in January, you don't want to pull out money early. You want to wait until you're in that new tax year before you pull it out. And then I believe most plans will send you a distribution form that says, this is what you took out. And you do want to keep those records and just, work with your tax preparer to make sure they're matching that up to say, yes, I only took out the what I want, because the government will get, you can get notices that, hey, we think you pulled out too much, pay us the tax and interest on these. So,
And just a quick reminder again, please don't put your questions in the chat box, put them in the Q&A for us. We're going to do our best to get to those. So let's do this. Let me stop sharing the screen for just a second here. And then I'm going to make a change. We're going to actually hop into the software for just a moment. There's a couple of reasons I want to do this. So tell me if you can see this okay, Mike?
yep.
Okay, perfect. So this is just a sample case. I mean, this is the kind of thing we're hoping that you have set up in your MyCap account, that you've already plugged things in. There's a couple of reasons for that, of course. If you've done a great job of putting the factual details into your profile when you originally set things up, that's going to help you a bunch. Not to mention, if you're still in that mode of trying to make some decisions, there is no better tool than to, for example, look at the affordability side of things here. This is what Mike and I were talking about earlier, where it shows the 4-year numbers, of each of these individual schools. And it says, like, is this a good affordability situation? Now, of course, don't get all caught up in Stanford. It's that way because, again, they give a lot of need-based aid out, which is why this particular family looks great. But it's all about understanding, like with Purdue, what are the total loans looking like compared to what the student is taking home with like an economics degree coming out of the school. It really, really can help you from a transparency standpoint. In addition to that, we hope that what you've done is that you've put in your financial aid offers into the system, because the system will indeed either automatically translate it if it can read the PDF. And we know that the templates are really different from school to school, so be careful about that. But worst case, you can go in and you can manually enter that information in here. Now, why is that such a big deal? Because what you're trying to do is that you're trying to compare one school next to the other so that you get a really good sense of what's going on. And actually taking it even a step further then, with our software, evaluating whether or not there's a possibility that you should go and appeal the offer. Now, again, because things are so late this year, maybe there's still some opportunities there for you to go back and appeal. I mean, we're running out of time. I realize that. But Mike and I have been super busy, as have all the other CAP experts over the last like 2 months here, 3 months even, prior to the federal offers coming out, because we had CSS profile schools. But it's all about seeing whether an appeal makes sense. And then here's the other thing that's really, really important down here at the bottom is how to pay. This is going to walk you through looking at the school and jumping in here and then talking about your budget situation. How are you going to pay for school? If these are all the costs associated with it, and then talking about, okay, where's the budget? How are we going to fill this out? And is that going to indeed lead to you having to look for college loans? And if so, which kinds of loans are you going to take out? Because the bottom line is we want to get this number down here to zero. So it's really, really, really important that you do that type of thing. So let me just go back here for a second. And then the other thing I want to show you down at the very bottom down here is the fact that we also have all these great links when it comes how to pay. You can compare the student loan programs, you can compare some private student loan rates, you can understand the loans themselves. So please make sure that you're using these kinds of things so that you're working through it and getting yourself prepared. If you're going to take out the federal loans, make sure that you're completing or your student is completing the counseling and filling out or taking the quiz and taking the master promissory note, or signing that master promissory note, I should say. So it's all about the fact that we tried to give you all the tools that you could use so that you really can make a really good informed decision based on all the different resources that exist out there. Okay. And then one of the other things that we want to show you is this. You may be sitting here still kind of spinning a little bit going, oh my gosh, we still don't totally know how we're going to do this. We're still stressing about this whole situation. If that's the case, don't forget that in your MyCap up top here that you can click on this talk to an expert, right-hand side. And when you do that, it'll bring you right into this where you can go ahead and you can purchase that 1 hour consultation with us. And so this is what it looks like. And it gives you the ability to go ahead and set up that meeting. And I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second here, and then Mike's going to show you what that actually looks like. So let me do that real quick here. While he's doing that, again, it's just a matter of understanding what are the opportunities going to be. Okay.
Dan, you seeing that now?
We can't see your screen now. We can.
Still
Yep.
low. Okay.
There you got
All
it.
right.
Perfect.
So yeah, so once you get done putting in your credit card and all that information, you'll come to this page, and you can either do next available, but if you'd like to talk to Dan or I, Dan's number 3 in the drop down list, and then I'm a little bit further down. There are a couple mics, so I'm Mike Hunsberger. Again, if you'd like to talk to us, and so yeah, Dan, there were a couple questions on scholarships. I'm going to stop sharing. Do you mind sharing again the
Yeah,
MyCap and showing where you can go look for additional
absolutely.
scholarships?
Love to talk about that. Yeah, let me get in here. Oops. Give me just a second. I got to get back to the right spot here. Yeah, so don't forget that the software itself will show you colleges and the kinds of scholarships that those colleges might give a student. So like if I click on Miami University here, it's going to fill that in. So you can see that this is projecting that this student would get a $9,500 scholarship. And then down below here, it actually breaks it all down. It shows you, because these are all competitive scholarships up here, but you'll notice that this says this is an automatic scholarship that this student would receive. So the system actually picks up on that type of thing. Now, in addition to that, just down below here is this private scholarship search tool. It's got $5.1 billion worth of private scholarship dollars in here. So if you click on this search for scholarships button, it'll take you in here and you can search for any of these different categories, but maybe it's one of those deals where you just need to look for specific dollar amounts. Now, look, I'm going to tell you, the more zeros behind the dollar amount, the more competition you're going to have. Okay. It's just the truth. So don't be surprised that if you look at only scholarships that are 10,000 and up, we've got 13 pages of those, and some of these, of course, have come and gone, but there are still some that are in here, that are significant. There's a $12,000 scholarship. Here's a scholarship range of 10 to 20. Just some pretty significant things. And each of these has an arrow key that you can click on and hop in there to see what the details are, as well as the website where you would actually go to complete it. So just a great, great resource. Look, here's the thing I'm going to tell you. It's going to take some work. Okay. I'm not going to kid you. Any good thing takes work, by the way. And these scholarships do indeed require the students doing the diving deep into these options to see what's out there. I will also say, and Mike, I think you would agree with me on this, that students can continue to pursue scholarships even when they're in college. I mean, there are opportunities out there that sometimes there's scholarships that are only awarded to students when they're sophomores, juniors, or seniors. I mean, they're kind of, it's a weeding out process, you know? So don't be afraid to continue to go to financial aid offices and ask, do you have any scholarships that I could pursue? So any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, just beat the bushes, do the work. If if your student, has something particular they do, um, research, just Google that scholarships. My daughter does Irish dance, and there are a few organizations that do college scholarships for Irish dancers. So, and some of those more niche ones are probably less competition than, like the Intel Science Award one that's $100,000 or, a lot of money. Um, they're going to have the very best and the brightest going for that. So, it is work, but it can pay off.
Yeah,
Um,
and how about the other ones are like the Coca-Cola scholarship, the Taco Bell scholarship, I mean, it's amazing how many big ones are out there. And you also have to realize that a lot of times those are a one-time scholarship. And so that's why you have to continue to pursue those things in the future. But there are opportunities still out there. I have had students personally get scholarships all the way until July. Um, so, it's just a matter of doing them. Let me tell you what I would not waste my time on is scholarships that say no essay or no application or no letters of recommendation. You're playing the lottery there, folks. I mean, you really are. You're chasing something that everybody else is doing. And that also goes along with the fact that some of the more popular search engines out there, everybody's getting into those. So back to what Mike was saying, I love the idea of pursuing things that are unique to the student to try to find things that might still be out there. And again, to continue to pursue those things even in college, because you want to know the good news when you get to college, the numbers go down because the students think, hey, I'm done with this process. I don't have to do this anymore. And yet the reality is there could be some more low hanging fruit out there. It could be things like in my where I live, a credit union continues to give money to students. The electric co-op gives money to students. I mean, banks, the stores that you shop in, you'd be amazed the kind of things that are still out there.
Yeah, the local Kiwanis club or, something, it may be $500, but that's still $500 you don't have to pay or pay back. And so,
Right.
they, even the small ones can definitely add up. Um,
Yes. Should we try to answer a couple of these other live
yeah,
questions we got here?
yeah, that sounds
Okay.
good.
Let's see. What about loan forgiveness? Seems to be happening a lot. Okay. Let's understand that with loan forgiveness, you're hearing it in the news all the time with President Biden, you know, forgiving these loans, forgiving those loans. And there's no doubt that there's some of that going on. When you really look at the amount of loans, though, that are being forgiven compared to the total loans that are outstanding, it's a little bit, okay? We've got a 1.75 to 1.76 trillion dollar student loan crisis out there. I mean, it's just the truth. And that's a combination of parent loans, student loans, I mean, all these kinds of things. That's a big, big number, folks. So, yes, those things are happening. Yes, there are some new programs like the new SAVE repayment program, SAVE, that President Biden pushed through. By the way, I support it 100% because it says if you get to the end of 20 or 25 years, 25 years if you've gone to grad school, 20 years undergraduate, that they will indeed forgive the loan. So there's definitely some benefits to that. Just realize that to qualify for that, what they're doing is that you're submitting your tax return every single year electronically. That's what's happening. And they're then determining what your loan payment is going to be every single year. And there is some upside and some downside to that. And I know, Mike, you're a big expert on this because you did some research on this stuff, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah, there are programs. Like Dan said, it's, some of the stuff that's been going on that you see in the news has been when there's, fraud at the school. Some of these, pay, not, they're non-profit colleges. They're for-profit colleges have deceived folks and things like that. So that's some of what's coming. And then some of it's people that have been paying for more than 20 years, 25 years, that they're going back and looking at them and saying, yes, you meet the time frame now that you qualify for this loan forgiveness. And because of, you know, the people who service the loans and them going back and forth and some of them, not doing it anymore, the records were horrible. So that's really what they're trying to make sure happened, that the people that really deserved it based on the criteria got that forgiveness. So, and yeah, there are things, Dan hit on. Save is fantastic. So your student, if they take out those federal loans and they get out of school and maybe they thought they were going to go to computer science and you borrowed, the max direct student loans, and they either can't find a job or they're working at a lower paying job at first. Save is all based on income. So you can qualify where, and if you're not making that full payment, say your payment would be $300 a month, but based on your income, it says you only have to pay 100. They basically wipe that other $200 per month off, and it's not adding to the principal of the loan anymore, which it used to. So that's going to be a huge thing, a great option for that. So there are things like that. Unfortunately, they closed the Parent Plus double consolidation loophole, or they will next July. So that unfortunately used to be a way. And it kind of feeds into the other question there on the Parent Plus loans.
Yeah.
Um, yes, there are still, you still can get into an income contingent repayment plan for Parent Plus loans. And it'll, if you file married filing separately for your taxes, if you're married or the person's single, it will only take their income. If you're filing jointly, it will look at both of the spouse's income. So that's really what you need to kind of look at. Again, can't give tax advice or anything like that.
Yep.
You need to talk to somebody, but that's how that's how it'll work. Um, and yes, that is a potential strategy, that then, yeah, 25 years after making whatever the required payments were, you may get your loan forgiven.
There's also a question here that says, can you explain about how getting grants works? That all comes down to, again, you completing the financial aid forms for the colleges. So the FAFSA, as well as the CSS profile. That's how colleges would in turn, provide that grant money to a student. Now, just realize too, maybe you've heard of the Pell Grant. There's also the Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. Those are absolutely tied again to financial need, which is determined by what your student aid index amount is. And that again is a situation where you could get the maximum Pell Grant, you could get a portion of the Pell Grant. It's 100% driven by your SAI amount, and then how that ties to the cost associated with the colleges or universities that your student is going to. Definitely run those numbers. Again, remember that the software will show you some of those things. It'll show you, because the software shows what your federal and your institutional SAI amounts are. With the institutional, it does show a range if you happen to own a house and the impact of home equity to that situation. But it'll also show you, the type of grant money that we're projecting, and realize that grant money is free money. It's not like the loans where it has to be repaid. If you qualify for a grant, whether it's federal grant money or a college's own institutional grant money, that is indeed free money that the family would receive. Okay. You want to take the next one?
Yeah, I'll take the last, probably time for last question, but if the question is, if you make $50,000 your first year salary, do we suggest that the student gets a loan for less than 50,000 total over the 4 years, or 50,000 each year? We recommend total, as that's the max you'd want to take on as a loan across those 4 years.
Awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you for joining us this evening. We hope this has been helpful. Again, your job is to sit down and use the software, specifically the bottom section if you're a senior, to map out how you're going to pay for not only the first year, but go ahead and talk about years 2, 3, and 4, because we don't want you to deal with a nasty surprise in the future, where your child got into a particular school and then you wipe out all of your money in the first year and you're trying to figure out, okay, what are we going to do in years 2, 3, and 4? But we hope that this has been helpful. Again, remember that within the software, if you're stuck and you need some additional guidance, feel free to schedule those meetings by clicking up top, talk to an expert, and you can take care of that. But again, thanks so much for joining us. We wish you nothing but huge success as you get across the finish line here. And congratulations, by the way, students, if you've already graduated from high school or are close to graduating. We hope that you have a terrific time and a terrific break this summer before you get ready to head off to school. Good night, everybody. Thanks, Mike. Take care.
Sure. See ya.